Yeah, this your boy Frank Gore, here with my dog Solo D. Shout out to Miami Sport Music.
You did Saturday style.
Gang, you see me, orange and green, that's gang. You ready to storm 18? That's gang. Gang, 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 gang. You see me, orange and green, that's gang. You ready to storm 18? That's gang. That's gang.
Reps since a juvenile, I be where they throwing up using crowds. You know how that school get down, not taking no L's, we ain't losing now. Don't get it confused right now, I represent making these music sounds. They play me when they study in their dorm room, request me an Uber now. I be screaming gang gang, across the world they be screaming out the same thing. We first to arrive and last to leave, we filling a sense of capacity. You know I won't change while you asking me, be throwing this youth to the casket deep. Be all on the field like Sebastian B, rockin' canes where I'm a fashion freak. Look, I be staying live, I don't pipe down. Ask Dom life, it's a lifestyle. And like the other schools, don't confuse us. We the only ones that really throw the you up. But can't spam turned up when you find me. Hit hard like I seen it go to Shanti. Try to reach them any D, they remind me that them canes right back in they prime.
Gang gang, 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 gang gang. You see me, orange and green, that's gang gang. You ready to storm 18? That's gang gang. Gang gang, 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 gang gang. You see me, orange and green, that's gang gang. You ready to storm 18? That's gang gang. That's gang gang. That's gang gang.
La Familia, we reppin' West 12 in the gang gang. Them haters gon' hate cause it can't be us. In other words, it can't hang. When it comes to the party and doing what it does for the Canes. We the Canes, man. It's around these parts and they're gonna bow down and have to tell you the same thing. We reppin' that line and you know it don't stop. Our DJ be reflex the creep of the crowd. We bumpin' that solo, we're dropping that drop. At third of the kick, I'll be closing up shop. You could ask about us at the Rock and I'm sure they gon' feel ya. We tailgate royalty, nobody get down like Kane Boys and La Familia. Gang, gang, gang.
Gang gang, gang gang, gang gang, gang gang, gang gang, gang gang, gang gang. You see me, orange and green, that's gang gang. You ready for storm 18? That's gang gang. That's gang gang. Gang gang, 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 gang gang. You see me, orange and green, that's gang gang. That's gang gang. You ready for storm 18? That's gang gang. That's gang gang. That's gang gang.
We gotta make moves on these haters, like with DJ Dallas. Gang hard as the rock. Hard rock be the palace. It's a new Kane order. See some fashion sprayed across the atlas. Man, he gave us the turnover chain. Yo, Rick, we need a touchdown chalice. Some saying that the U ain't back, but we got something to prove. Stand back, I know you be seeing the cozy he all in his groove. I might have to break the extinguisher out and spray the field like I'm John Rule. Seminoles getting busted in the tube. Gators know that the U is the truth. Striving for greatness is all we pursue. Win or lose, always choose so up to you. I can say no other do what we do. Washington Thomas pop it off like a fuse. Competition is confused. We sit on the side on the muse. Snooze on them kings and you lose. Snooze on them kings and you lose. Snooze on them kings and you lose.
Welcome to Coach Hayes Football Live. He can talk about anything from high school to the pros. This guy knows the game, so you better not be half-stepping.
I can guarantee you most of the audience is going to agree with me before they agree with you.
Strap in, because Coach Hayes is about to
crack your cranium and fertilize your brain. Go ahead, right here, right now.
Subscribe now and check out CoachHayesFootball.com.
What's up, everybody in the building? Talk to me. Let me know real quick in the comment section. Everything looks good, sounds good, so we can get this thing rolling. I'm super excited today. Man, we got a special guest. I'm going to call him special because the first time on my show, but y'all seen him hundreds and hundreds of times all over the place, spitting game, spreading the knowledge. So it is what it is. But anyway, real quick, let me get a quick thumbs up so I can get this thing rolling. Also, let me make sure. Also, we did a premiere on my man. Okay, Greg Bush in the building. That's what I'm talking about. Greg Bush, he says all good. I'm loving this. So I'm not going to go belabor the point. So if Greg says it's good, it's good. Trust me, because he's always here. Now, if you guys didn't get a chance to see it, I just did the premiere of Jacuri Brown's WRE, which is my watch, react, and evaluate. All right. I thought it was pretty smooth. I gave him the business on something, but I praised him when he did extremely well. And we're going to talk about it right now. So let me go ahead and jump straight into this piece right now with my man, Mr. Brad Trejada, high in the building. What's going on? Did I say that right or did I jack it up?
Pronounce it one more time. Pronounce it one more time. I got to hear it.
Trejada.
Yes, sir. Right on the money.
All right, because I thought it was R in there for a long time. I thought it was R.
You good. You good, man. You good. How you doing tonight?
Man.
How you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm fired up. We super excited, to get this thing rolling. And man, I'm just excited to get this thing rolling, man.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. The goal by the end of the night is not to be like poor little Timmy.
we don't want to be like poor little Timmy, man. We can't
be like poor little Timmy. So
nobody wants to be like poor little Timmy. So let me do this before we jump into it. People are all over the comment section. I'm loving it. We currently got 63 in the chat. That's great. But let me go ahead and pay these bills. As you know, Mr. Alex Tabio, who is part of Certified Home Loans, sponsors this program, man. He does a great job. I actually have personal dealings with them, dealing with some properties right now. Please, if you're in a process or you want to look into trying to purchase a home or businesses or rental properties or whatever, check him out for conventional FHA as well as VA loans and other money things he has going on. Trust me, I have a whole bunch of programs out there. Interest rates are extremely low. Can't go in there with super jacked up credit, if you know what I'm saying. But like I said, go give him a quick call, hit him with an email. He always answers his phone. Phone number is 305-205-1697, and check him out at his email, which is atabio@certifiedhomeloans.com, and he can hook you up. I promise you, not only will he help you, he'll educate you in the process, because I've learned a lot. I thought I knew some stuff. He knows a lot more. But let's go ahead and jump into this thing. So, Brad, today we're talking about Jacuri Brown, and I did my WRE. I'm not sure if you had a chance to see it because we were kind of in the back room, and you know me, I'm rushing and everything. So I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but I know you probably have seen his film anyway.
Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on the young man?
I mean, first of all, I mean the stuff that you can't teach, right? His body build, his athleticism. I mean, the young man is like 6'4", over 200 pounds. He runs a 4.6 40. I mean, he's a big athletic guy who has a rocket arm, someone similar to Tyler Van Dyke as far as arm strength, but as far as athleticism and playmaking ability, as far as Jake Garcia, but then also has the running ability of what a De'Aaron King somewhat has, right? So you kind of mold all three of those together. You now got your future quarterback in the 2022 class, Jacuri Brown.
Well, it sounds like somebody made this dude in a lab or something, man. I know I got a couple years on you, but it was a movie called Weird Science where they made the perfect person. That's what it is. That's what it sounds like, according to you.
Now, I mean, don't get it twisted. I mean, he's far from perfect, right? I think the things that he needs to work on are very easy to fix. When you get him under a great quarterback coach like Rhett Lashley, who hopefully, is still there in about 2 years, is going to be able to, groom him perfectly. But I think, again, you got to go back to the intangibles that you cannot teach a football player. And that's everything that Jacuri Brown has, And when I spoke to him on Wednesday in an interview with him, Isaiah Bond, and Colin Hurley on the Canes Inside Live show, he was talking about, the one player that he compares himself the most is Deshaun Watson. That, and if you really look at his film, that could be his peak, right, is Deshaun Watson. But me personally, when you currently look at him, he still has a lot of things that he needs to work on, specifically the accuracy, some of the, decisions, into a football game. So I would kind of compare him to like a Hendon Hooker from Virginia Tech that ended up transferring to Tennessee. Same body build, same type of strengths, same type of weaknesses. But again, man, you're talking about a young man that still has another year of high school to go. He's doing a lot of training on a 7-on-7 team in Domo as well. That's teaching him a lot of new fundamentals. And hey, he just got invited to the Elite 11. You got to be able to throw the ball somewhat to get an Elite 11.
Yeah, and during my breakdown, you're 100% right. And during my breakdown, a lot of guys who have big arms, just even through my experiences, man, a lot of guys who have big arms are not afraid to let that thing go, right? And especially if they have a receiver they can trust. I always used to tell my quarterbacks, and I used to tell them the receivers, always get the quarterback, right? Always be his best friend, take him out to eat. And I always kind of equate this to, I guess, lack of a better term, a bar fight, right? If I'm in a bar fight, I'm looking for my homeboy. When I'm in trouble, if it's three dudes, I'm looking for my home. And that's the same thing in football. When you're getting stacked and there's so much pressure, you're going to the guy you trust. You know what I mean? And I don't care if it's three dudes on him, you're still going to throw it up because you believe he can make that play. And that's where some maturation has to take place at that position. But, like I said, in his film, I saw a couple of things where he could have made different throws and he just threw it up. But again, that guy's a big deal. I don't know who that receiver was, but Lord, he was good, man. He was good.
Yeah, and he's also talked about, him starting to now experience in like the whole 7-on-7 thing, right? That kind of put him more on the map. That from what he told me, as far as getting better offers and being able to talk to more impressive people that could kind of put his talents more out there. And he even said, man, like some of the best receivers and players he went against helped him all throughout 7-on-7. I mean, being able to have an Isaiah Bond, on your same 7-on-7 team, or playing, in a state championship game against Noah Fant, right? Right. Those are big names. So.
No, you're 100% right. And again, sometimes we look at that player, but we don't know what other players surround him, right? Mm-hmm. From a talent standpoint. And a lot of times people look at quarterbacks and, he doesn't have this, but you remember, I don't know what his offensive line is really like. Now I know Lyons has always had some great talent and so forth, but again, he's still young. I mean, he's only in the 11th grade. That's what a lot of people are not understanding. And he still has a year to go. And this is actually, 6 months ago. That's not telling what he's learned since then. Yeah. And that's what's huge right now about him in that sense. And I know a lot of people were watching the premiere. I was kind of looking through it as I was getting ready for this, and I thought it was pretty cool. I had never done that before, so it was pretty cool, man. So I thought it was great. Real quick, let me give a shout out to two guys who actually donated. So big shout out to Norman F. in the building. He says, "What's good, gentlemen?" What's and up, as Norman? Well, Chug More Beer, $10. Coach Hayes and Brad, what could be better? Keep up the great work, guys. Let's go, Kane. Smash the like button. And I don't have my cup today. I got my. So the Chug More Beer, that's to you, brother. And I got to give you guys your love. Give me 1 second so I can give you guys your love. All right, man. So we got that there. I do want to say this piece, and I'm so excited. I kind of skipped over something. Talked about how Coach Howard Schnellenberger passing away. I know if everybody's kind of mentioned. I see a lot of the Kane YouTubers have made sure they put it out there. Twitter's been bouncing around a lot. So, we do want to give our condolences to the family and a great guy. And I guess I got a quick story. I'm a little older, so I've actually had a chance to meet him when he was actually coaching the FAU. Okay. He came in to recruit some guys, and we had a chance to sit down a little bit and talk. And this was before the whole U series came out on 30 for 30. But I was just asking him about Miami Hurricanes before this thing even came out. And one of the questions I asked him was, I said, "What's the difference, Coach, between players today and players back when you were at University of Miami?" You know what he said? "These dudes are selfish." Oh, and he's a hard cut guy now. You know what I mean? He just tell you straight up like it is. That deep raspy voice. Yep. These guys are selfish. I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Everything is about," and this had to be, FAU was what, 04, 05, 06, somewhere in there, the time in which he was coaching in. So we're talking 15 years ago. So imagine how it has evolved into today, 2021. And I was like, wow, you know what I mean? So that's huge, man. But that's just my quick little story about him. We had a chance. We didn't talk any X and O's, but because he was doing recruiting and everything. And, he was like, man, I'm talking no X and O's with this young buck.
Hey, rest in peace to the legend that created it all, man. There's no you. There's no, Sebastian the Pipe without Coach Snell, man. So that's where it all started.
I love it. Ski Money Entertainment said, let's build him a statue. I love it. And his statue has to have a pipe in it. It has to. It has to have the pipe. That's just
I'm not gonna say I take credit for this because I saw it on Twitter. Somebody I'm sure who's watching said this on Twitter, but we need to have the new, turnover chain this year be the pipe. Somehow, some way it needs to be the pipe.
Wow, that with a mustache, huh? I love it. I love it. That's a great idea, man. That's a great idea. Wow. That'd be pretty cool. Just a one-off, you know what I mean? Just as a way to pay tribute. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, man. So anyway, man, like I say, he built this program up, and if you guys haven't seen the the 30 for 30 special 1 and 2, then you on the right. You're not a real Kane fan. I have to be honest with you. You call it what you want. You're not a Kane fan if you haven't watched it more than 4 times or 5 times. But anyway, Brad, so let's jump into this. So we talked about him.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. And we also talking about the class of 2022.
Yep.
All right. How do we I'm sorry, broke my concentration. Liberty City boy says iced out pipe, laugh out loud. That'll be hilarious. But let's talk about the class of 2022 when we talk about recruiting trail now, because we talked about Jacuri and we'll kind of go back to him.
Mm-hmm.
But where do we stand as Hurricanes in the recruiting trail with commitments, lack of commitments? What is it looking like?
Yeah, so I mean, this year's a little bit different than most, right? They keep pushing that official, visit date to where people could start for young men to start being able to have those official visits. So for the last 2 to 3 months, a lot of colleges, not just Miami, have been at this standstill, right? Where it's mostly just Zoom, feeling things out. And unfortunately, with Miami, half our football team, as far as one side of the football, just got a brand new staff. So we're having to, rejuvenate these relationships that these coaches like T-Rob, Coach Ish, Bob Shoop, Jess Simpson, we're having to rejuvenate those relationships from what they had at previous schools or organizations. And now they're coming behind the University of Miami and repitching that to these young men, right? So you got that one part of it. And then the other part of it is just, you got to think it's not just Miami that's having this problem. Almost a lot of universities right now, don't have too many commits right now. And what you're seeing is this is the perfect time right now where this is going to get hot. June and July are the hot months for commit watch for this season in particular, because now you're starting to see all these official visits flying, one right after the other. As soon as Jacuri Brown committed to Miami, you had guys like Quan Lee, Jaden Gibson, Isaiah Bond, dropping official visits. I think Jaden Gibson in particular has like 4 or 5 official visits one weekend after the other, back to back to back. So that's when you're going to start seeing these young men start to figure out what their decision is. So look for June or July to kind of be, the decision-making months. But I think all in all, where Miami stands as a whole right now, me personally, and from what I've talked to with other people, Jacuri Brown was the first commit in this class. Jamal Johnson already decommitted, and from everything I've heard from multiple people, Brandon Cleveland is pretty much a decommit at this point. So Jacuri Brown legitly is the domino to all this. And I think now that we have another quarterback on board, you pretty much got the leader of the class already in place. In Georgia, Louisiana, Texas, those are going to be very prime locations this year in particular for Miami as far as hotbeds in recruiting, just because of, there's not as much talent as normal in South Florida this year.
I got you. So let me ask you just a question, your opinion about this. And you talked about 707 and all these different things that Jacuri was doing and being out and about and the whole COVID-19, right? I don't understand what the issue is of guys having a chance to visit these universities and everybody's out and about. We've played a season, people travel, people have done things. Why are we postponing something? And I'm not understanding why. It's not April of last year where it was like just hitting you in the face. I was at the UFC. I went to a place for the UFC fight last night. It was to capacity.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm trying to say? So I'm not just trying to get a true understanding of what is the mindset behind this when it comes to the NCAA.
I really don't know. I just think they're kind of, tiptoeing around the situation just because you got to think there's some states and some places that are taking this more serious than other, or some that are more lenient than other. So if you kind of, let it go back to normal free for all, you're kind of giving the advantage to certain states on how they're, viewing this whole, COVID in general, to where what the NCAA decided to do was kind of leave the advantage in the young man's opportunity. If you have the money and the funds and the plan to go and you want to, risk that, so to speak, then go ahead and do it. But that's on your own dime. And that's what, Jacuri Brown, Isaiah Bond, and Colin Hurley did, 2 weekends ago from Miami.
Right. So the players can go to the university. The university just can't fly them in.
Nope. Everything has to be on their own dime, and you can't have no interaction with them. It's got to be all, all up to them.
But when you said it on dime, meaning like, so Jacuri went down to the University of Miami?
Yes. So like they all planned that out. They went by campus. They went to the Miami Heat Arena. They met with chief officials of the city of Miami. And this was actually all done. I mean, a lot of people were under the impression that Jacuri Brown set all this up. But it was actually 13-year-old Colin Hurley, who's going to be a phenom if you haven't heard of him yet. He's a 2025 eighth grader, 13 years old, already has a state championship with Trinity Christian on the same 7-on-7 team with Jacuri Brown, and actually outthrew him the last camp. So his father actually, set all this up to get all three of them out there.
Gotcha. Man, that's awesome. I definitely got to check him out. The only guy I heard that far about is some kid named Baby Gronk, they called him. I don't know where he's from.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
I saw a little bit of the tape. I was like, man, he's too far away from me right now. Because I think that I got a whole nother show about that. People being able to offer eighth graders. And
so Lane Kiffin already offered him. So
yeah, I know. I just like, to me, not to say Lane, not to single him out, but since you brought his name up, bro, will you still be there by the time this kid is a junior? That kind of stuff.
Correct.
Out of all the problems the NCAA have, that's one they let go. I think that's something, But anyway, that's what it is. But let's get into this piece. So let me ask you another question. I had the crib on here a couple weeks ago, and I was asking him, who are the must-gets for the Hurricanes in the class of 2022? Because we know there's been an issue with our players leaving, and just recently, as in the Jacuri Brooks, right? Even right here, Christian Leary in Tampa, the Mario Williams. These guys, and I've heard some stuff about Mario Williams, and they're receiving stuff. They say they're killing it out there in Oklahoma. But so I had the crib on to ask him, who are the guys, when we start talking about having to get our guys back and keep the Alabamas, Ohio States, Clemson's out of our backyard, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Who do we need to target, do you think, right now?
So that's a trick question, Coach. Because I mean, if I'm going based off what I really want, it's a different list of what's realistic, right? So like if you wanted the realistic list, I can do that. But if you want me to just name like the top guys, then that's a little different story.
Because here's the deal, right? When I say the must gets, and I'm always looking at everything I do, I look through from a coach's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So the must gets for me is the guys that are difference makers. Just because and I already got my reservations about some guys being 5 stars. I'm like, how? So I don't care about their stars, their status. Like a Brashard Smith is a prime example. He was a must get for me, but he wasn't a 5-star. He wasn't a 5-star guy. He wasn't, he wasn't, all American, all parade, this and that and the other. But he's a guy I think can turn this deal around. So I want your true and honest must get list. If you.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, as far as, honest must get, at the top of the list, it's got to be Julian Armala at a Columbus, right? Offensive line. We have to keep producing, these big body tackles. You look at what, Navon Donaldson was able to do for the University of Miami when he was healthy. He was able to change things around. You look at someone like Jalen Rivers, who potentially is going to come in and start at your left guard position this year. You're starting to create bigger guys like Zion Nelson, Michael McLaughlin, Isaiah Walker, Chris Washington, who are all big, 6'5" and bigger, right? When you go up against the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Floridas, there's no more, going out there with a 6'2", 6'3" offensive guard. All right. You need to have that 6'5" guard, 265, 70, 80 plus pounds or heavier to get with those type of programs. So that's what Coach Justice is starting to recruit. So I got to go Armella as one of my guys. The next guy is probably Nijek Kelly, defensive end out of Dillard. I think he's one of the most talented, underrated recruits, not only in South Florida, but in the nation. He's currently committed with Florida State right now, but I believe Miami, particularly Jess Simpson, they're doing a phenomenal job at keeping up with that young man as far as Zoom call, FaceTime, pretty much like twice a day. I pretty much think he's gone on at record and said that no team, including Florida State, has done as much communication as Miami has done. So that's a good spot with him. The next guy I would probably go with, to be honest with you, is got to be Wesley Basante out of Miami Central. You talk about, a position group where Miami has lacked, not only since Manny Diaz has been the head coach, but even going back to when he was a defensive coordinator and linebackers coach for the Miami Hurricanes. We have been very bad at either recruiting that position or developing that position. So whenever we have the chance at getting guys who are already one step ahead of that curve as far as developing and a plug and play type of guy, especially if he's in your own backyard and he's the best at his position, those are can't miss guys. And Wesley is, to be honest with you, he's probably at the top of the list, even ahead of Julian Armella. So Wesley is definitely up there as well. And then, the next obvious position group is obviously cornerback, right? Another position group where Miami has struggled, not only landing outside the state of Florida, but beyond that, right? Even inside the state of Florida with, guys recruiting out of their home roots of high schools at American Heritage. So getting a guy like T-Rob, who is one of the most dominant recruiters in college football, pairing him up with a young DeMarcus Van Dyke, who is very great at establishing relationships with these young men and the parents. And then you kind of have Mike Rump there behind them as well to kind of give them that final check mark to relate with the parent side and kind of give them a more informative of the University of Miami itself. Because I think there's no better guy on the coaching staff than Mike Rump to do that. He bleeds that orange and green. So I think you have a perfect, trio of landing some really good corners in our backyard. So that being said, I think Jacoby Spells has to be right up there at the top of the list as well. And those are just guys in South Florida. Again, I truly do think this is going to be 1 year in particular where you're going to see us branch out a lot more and go to different, places. Louisiana being one in particular where I think my next guy, Kamari Rogers, is at the top of that list. He's pretty much a top 5 corner or top 10 corner on everyone's board in the nation. Me in particular, I think he's the second best corner in the nation behind the phenom Travis Hunter, who's currently committed to Florida State. But I think Kamari Rogers is a must get. And for him to, be playing in Louisiana from, the state of Mississippi and Ole Miss, being his number 1 team for quite a while until we added T-Rob. And now it seems like everything I've heard, Miami is the team to beat for Kamari Rogers. And that is huge dividends and a pat on the back for T-Rob, DeMarcus Van Dyke, and Manny Diaz for, getting those guys here on the staff. And then last but not least, another guy that, I think is going to be making his commitment shortly and is also the teammate of Kamari Rogers, and that's Jordan Allen. Jordan Allen is another young phenom who has amazing range. His body is built similar to like a DJ Ivy. I think 1 year into Coach Feely program, you're going to see a huge mass difference to where he kind of has everything that you need as far as on the football field. I think Ohio State's the only other team, kind of competing us with that. And just to throw one extra one, Kamari Wilson out of IMG. He's a must-get safety that I believe is announcing April 1st.
Thank you. Oh, he is. And the funny thing you said that about Kamari Wilson, he was the very first player I did WRE. He was the very first one because his uncle, who just passed away with maybe about 3 months ago, Will Nellums, we coached together in Miami, Norland. Mm-hmm. And when I pitched this whole idea sitting at home with COVID, he was the guy, I've told the story before, but he was the guy I called. We were talking. I said, man, look, I'm thinking about doing this and yada, yada, yada. He was like, I got somebody for you to do. And I was like, who? Because I have to tell you this, I'm new to the whole recruiting and knowing the player. Like I told you guys, I was coaching, man. I was here trying to win games. I didn't know who the new 10th grader was. If I played against them, I knew who they were or whatever. But I was always a Canes fan, but never really a Cane analyst. I put it that way, until now recently. And so I learned a lot from you guys, believe it or not, when it comes to that. But that's why I'm sitting here listening like, man, you throwing some names I haven't even heard, but which is great.
Yeah.
And I got my pen and paper and I'm writing them down. See what I'm saying? I'm writing them down because I'm learning. And so I say all that about Kamari Wilson, that dude is different, man.
Yes, he is. He definitely is. And he's very, very level-headed too, especially with a high caliber guy, someone from IMG. They're solely focused on, and not really academics, but more on the athletic side, right? That's right. a staple when it comes to that. And he's very, very God-driven too. And I really like that about the young man.
Uh-oh, Brad, you got stuck. The devil always working, boy. I'm trying to tell you, you got stuck for a second. As soon as you said God, you got stuck. Hey, the devil always working, baby. But
but man, Kamari Wilson is a heck of a talent. I really do hope Miami ends up landing him. I think we're in a good spot. Alabama obviously is another team, but I think Alabama, I think as crazy as this sounds, Alabama's got some other guys ahead of Kamari on their list. So we'll see what happens.
That's great.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I just hit him on Instagram and stuff because he was like, Coach, you do my junior film, and I was like, I got something special for you. I'm gonna try to get him for my anniversary show, being the first guy, man. But I'm gonna say this to you, man. I'm gonna say what I'm happy to hear. I don't want to say proud because proud makes it sound like I'm looking down. That's not my deal. I'm happy to hear the first person you brought up was an offensive lineman, bro. Mm-hmm. Most people want, they want the glitz and glam. They want the quarterback, the receiver, this. You brought up the offensive line, which people don't understand. That is the staple to anything. And you talk about the change in body types, right?
Yes.
And this is where my kind of coaching stuff gets in, right? Because I know a lot of guys know these players back and forth and mom and dad and all that. I don't know that stuff. I know X and O's and who should go where. Mm-hmm. In your opinion, with the type of offensive lineman that we have, do you think our offensive line, I don't know, that's not, I'm going to put the glass half full. The offensive line is not aggressive enough?
So I would say this. I think in prior years, yeah, I think it hasn't been aggressive enough. I mean, even now, to be honest with you, as much as I love Corey Gaynor, I don't know if he's the most aggressive center on this roster. I could easily see Ja'Kai Clark, sliding into that center spot and him kind of taking over and being that aggressor in the center position. And I know he's been practicing all at center. During this first spring game, he was only at center the whole spring game. So that's good to hear. I think Coach Justice is finally starting to get the right guys, whether it be them getting built as far as shape, or finally being able to transition them into the right spot. DJ Scaife in particular is one young man that has bounced around all throughout the offensive line. And when he came in to the University of Miami, he was supposed to be a tackle. That was his number one spot he should have been. And as soon as he came in here, we were switching him around different spots, and it kind of hurt him and put him a step back, similar to, other guys that we have done on the defensive side of the ball in years past. And I think with a guy like Coach Justice, he's starting to, settle down and get into this groove. So someone similar to hopefully Rhett Lashley will do this year on the offense side of the ball, to where I think you're starting to see the right guys in place. I think a guy like Michael McLaughlin is going to be one in particular offensive lineman to look after the next couple of years, because that is a typical Coach Justice prototype right there. So you will be able to see, what Coach Justice wanted to recruit, him developing a young man to go from a tight end to an offensive lineman. He only played offensive line not even a whole football season in high school. And now he's an offensive tackle for the University of Miami, has gained like 35, 40 pounds. He's already 6'7". So, I mean, The young man is huge.
Wow.
So I think Coach Justice, that's a typical lineman that you're going to want to look after to see how good Coach Justice is as a developer, because a lot of these other guys that are going to be starting on the offensive line this year and are going to be rotating this year have already been here for, 3 to 4 years. And that's not a bad thing, because this is the first time in a long time that us as Miami fans could say we're about seven to eight deep as far as rotation players, to where we feel confident in, because they've had at least, 20 to 40 snaps.
And what you're saying makes a lot of sense. So, because here's how I took it as I looked at the Hurricanes this year in my deep analysis, right? I'm going to go back. Offensively, I think the most – no, you're not going to – I know you guys may not believe it, but the most talented in my eyes group on the offense is the running back. The running back room is great. Mm-hmm. People will say what they want about Cam, and I understand fan base, right? I understand fanatic talk, and I understand what I see. And I look at Cam, Chaney, Knighton. And I was just on T2I show earlier, and I was talking about this. We have exactly what you want. You have all three different dynamics when it comes to running back. Power, you have in Cam, you got speed and quick agility in Knighton, and then you got both in Chaney.
Yep.
And so when I say that, I also believe this when it comes, and I'm here to the second guess, guys. I'm just talking about what I see. It's something I noticed that I don't see is gap scheme stuff when it comes to our offense. And what that means is, for guys that don't know, we don't see the pulling guards. We don't see the counter trays. We don't see wham blocks. We don't see quick. And I know quick trap. Some of that stuff is old school, but people still running it. Ask North Carolina. I'm just being honest.
Right.
So, football plays don't have an expiration date. Don't get it twisted. And so what I'm just trying to say is, I think Cam is a power back guy, right? Those type of things. And when you're dealing with zones, he has to kind of pick his hole. He's a guy, I got to get going. It's like a locomotive. I'm not worth anything in the first 50, feet. But once I get going, it's hard to stop me. But then a guy like Knighton is stop, go, cut, quick, boom, boom, boom. And then Chaney has the ability to do both, which I think he's probably the most dynamic out of all three in my eyes. But I say all that to say, when I looked at the offensive line, I didn't see us reestablishing the line of scrimmage this year. I didn't see us starting on the 20-yard line, and we made a wave to the 22, 23-yard line. That's why I asked you the question about aggressiveness. And I think that's what hurt Cam this year. But Chaney and Knighton kind of got away with it because they have a different skill set. You know what I mean?
Makes perfect sense.
I wanted to bring that up in that case. Real quick, got to give a quick shout out to OG Kane. He dropped a donation in here, but I didn't want to break the concentration. OG Kane in the building. This is my man. One day he gonna get on this show. Last time I'm gonna get on cold, but I'm barbecuing. I don't know. This dude like the gooch. You never seen him, but he always around, huh? All right, OG Kane, $5 donation. Appreciate it. He says just passing through, showing some love. Coach 10 Stacks and Brad in the chat later. All right, man. So whether you watch it back later, I got to give him his love. All right, so I use that as a little segue to go into the next thing. So now, which was great, you brought down you broke down the guys in particular, because I want to kind of get into the scrimmage piece too in a second, but I want to talk a little bit more. Where do you think this year's recruiting, because I know this show is really about Jacuri, but Kane shows, we always go all over the place. Mm-hmm. Where do you think, we talked about the must get, but what do you think? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back to ask you a question. I want to ask you about one of the guys you brought up. Okay. There was another Jaheim Singletary, I believe, out of Jackson.
Singletary. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, supposed to be going to Ohio State. Mm-hmm. And he's at Robert E. Lee, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
High school. He's another big guy. But I want to ask you about Travis Hunter. And I did a WRE film on him. That's where I really want to go. I know he's in Thomasville, but one of the viewers put on there, he's a Florida guy. He's from Florida originally. I don't know what part. Well, what part of Florida is he from? Do you know?
I don't.
Okay. And so those are the kind of guys, I want to get those guys. You know what I mean? I want to get those guys. And not to give those guys up there in Tallahassee any credit, but they flipped some commits lately, man.
They have.
This year, the Sam McCall out of Lake Gibson and those kind of, I've done his film, and they killing me on that because his thumbnail has the Florida Gators where he committed. And boy, they eat me up. Coach, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, man, go check the published date, man. Leave me alone. But anyway, yeah, that's what it is. So I just want to make sure that we kind of get I think we got to get our guys, and we always had a place for Louisiana, right? That's where we got the Ed Reeds from and those kind of cats. So we always the Reggie Waynes and so forth. But I want to make sure we keep our dudes at home, man, and doing those kind of things. Let me ask you a quick question about a young man, Keith Brown.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take? Do you think he was a guy that could have done something for the Hurricanes, looking at him versus going to Texas A&M?
Oh, absolutely. I think if Coach Ish would have been on this staff, prior, we would have had Keith Brown, and we probably would have not had Brashard Smith, because I think when you look at this recruiting class this past year, I think that was kind of the A or the B for the Miami Hurricanes. There was a lot around going that we were going to go after Keith. But as soon as we landed Brashard Smith, that was kind of to where, all right, are we going to get two of the same slot guys? Are we going to have those two guys along with a Mark Pope and Xavier Restrepo? Now you have four potential, guys that are all playing the same spot. And I think that's kind of where the staff kind of, made the decision, hey, we're going to keep Brashard Smith and not really go full force on Keith, because I do think if Miami wanted him, we could have made a better run at him and got him.
Yeah, but I still think Keith has a different skill set than just because they play the same position. Keith has that Roscoe Parrish in him. I don't think Brashard has that.
Oh, he doesn't. But I think what happened. Was you have those other two guys in Jacoby George and Romello Brinson that make up for that. You know what I mean?
I got you. No, I got you. I was just wondering about that because I know everybody was talking about it, and I'm looking to do a show here about Miami Central here short, hopefully this week, if not next week. I'm talking with those guys. I know they're getting ready to start spring ball after they're on spring break right now. So, but anyhow, that's great, man. Let me get into this piece. Leonard Taylor, who's coming in, right? No, he's a big boy. He's already on campus. Yeah. And I'm trying to stay away from the scrimmage because I don't want to lead into that, because I want to kind of talk about some of these guys and then we get to the scrimmage.
Yeah.
What are what have your ears been hearing about his progression so far since he's been there on campus?
So he's gaining a lot of weight. Leonard Taylor isn't on campus yet though. He doesn't hit till I believe late July, early August. But he's one of those guys that haven't hit campus along with James Williams, but he's been doing a lot of off the field workouts. And from everything I've heard, he's gaining a lot of muscle, a lot of good weight. And he's going to be one of those perfect guys. He's going to be fitting in a perfect opportunity with Jess Simpson's defensive line. From everything I've heard, we're going to be a lot more aggressive. When you start to, pair those big body guys like a John Ford, a Jordan Miller, Elijah Roberts, and you kind of pair them with a Harrison Hunt, a Nesta Silvera, and now a Leonard Taylor, you're going to be able to you'll be able to have that one plugger and that one finesse, going back to a Kendrick Norton, RJ McIntosh role, right? That goes back to Jess Simpson and what he was able to create with that. Because you're going to have to create a lot more interior aggressiveness this year, just because you don't have that dominant presence on the outside on defensive end this year.
Right. And the three technique, and I believe that's what I thought Leonard Taylor should play, is the three tech. Because, they say, 20 is the new 30 is the new 20 or whatever they call it. The three tech is the new defensive end. And Aaron Donald kind of exposed that by moving him inside. Because remember, guys that were like Aaron Donald used to be outside, like Freeney's and what's my man from Miami Jackson? Lord have mercy. Dumaville, those kind of guys, right? The 6 foot guys. But now they're getting those kind of guys, which I know he's taller than 6 feet, but they're getting those guys inside. And what people don't understand from a scheme standpoint, it creates a one-on-one with a lesser talented offensive line and a guard from a pass standpoint. And that's what's huge about it. So if you can get two dynamic bookends right? And you can get that third guy, which is the 3 technique, who can now he has a two-way go, right? So he can't lose contain like a defensive end can't, right? So you got a lesser talented offensive guard here, but I can go both ways, A or B gap, based on my stun or whatever the case may be. That dude I think Leonard Taylor can be dynamic at this game. He could really be a true impact for the Miami Hurricanes, And since you brought up the ends, let's talk about my man, and I'm going to call his name. Most people don't do it, but I got a special place in my heart for guys who do the right thing. You can call me old softy, but Zach McCloud has moved down to defensive end. People call him 53. I'm going to call him Zach McCloud. What have you heard so far as his progression being moved?
You know what? As crazy as this sounds, man, not only has his progression been better, but NFL scouts seem to actually already like the move to where like his draft stock, as crazy as it sounds, him going from linebacker to defensive end has actually improved. Just off the little clips that they had, in the bowl game, you can tell, that first get off, that first step of Zach McCloud is pretty dangerous. And with his size, his range, his speed, his speed at the linebacker position is a little bit of different speed when you're putting him on that edge rush and you're only asking him to do one thing. And the great thing about Zach McCloud is if you tell him to go in a straight line at a quarterback, he's going to be able to do that very, very fast. His problem was changing direction, right? So I think when you look at someone with like Zach McCloud, I don't necessarily think he's going to be one of those defensive ends that we're going to rely on heavily, but I do think he will be very good at situational, moments. Someone similar to like a Demetrius Jackson back in the day where we put him in on situational game time. Someone similar to Scott Patchen, Scott Patchen we put in similar situations as well. So I think that's what you'll get as Zach McCloud. I think the key is going to be guys like Jafari Harvey and Chance Williams taking that next step. We need those two young men to finally elevate and create that next step to kind of make that gap, be a little bit more bigger than what we've seen in the past. And that should help with the inside pass rush as well.
Right. And I'm going to tell you something that I did. I didn't tape it or film it, but I actually WRE Zach McCloud's film on my own, just doing it after everybody's. Because again, I was at that time he was coming out. I wasn't doing this. So I went back. I said, let me just see why. Let me see what the coaches saw in him. And I'm going to tell you this. What he is doing today when he was at the linebacker position is what he did in high school, believe it or not. The only difference is if you go look at his film, he going to bust your head straight up. If you come through the A gap, B gap, you sleep.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at his perimeter play, he was making a lot of tackles to the ankles. He was getting them down, but his burst wasn't there. So yes, was he making the tackles? Yes, but they were making the tackles 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 yards down the field as a middle linebacker in high school. So now that running backs and perimeter guys get faster in college, these things go from making a tackle 8, 9 yards to making a touchdown because he didn't turn the corner on you behind. And I'm going to tie this in. I'm going to leave it alone. I know if you had an opportunity, I know the guys have. I did my whole thing about the James Williams, my pitch about why I felt. And he is the epitome of what I feel I do not want to see. And here, let me go back and preface and say this. If JW goes out there and balls out, I'm all for it. But what I don't want you to do is chase something so long to now you're in a one-year deal like this. That's my concern. I don't want you to get into a situation where you're chasing something because you believe you can do it. And now, like you just said, look at Zach McCloud's draft stock has gone up in 5 practices.
Yep.
Imagine if he did that for 2 years or 3 years, what it would be. And that was all I was trying to say, because I see that the young man, James Williams, can do a lot of the same things and is faster. Yes. But I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to leave it alone because people, boy, they've been banging my head about it, but I love it. Any thoughts? I'm anticipating, I'm hyped for it because, man, I think a lot of us, when we heard the names like Avonte Williams, James Williams, Leonard Taylor, like the expectation, unfortunately, like for us Cane fans, were just so high already before they even arrived on campus or before they even, were able to have that first legit practice,
as a Miami Hurricane. And for, Avonte Williams alone, man, it just speaks volumes to like a young man that when we first got him on campus, we had all these expectations for him, right? And he had so many expectations for himself. You talk about a young man from DeLand who all he had was football. He was only 18 years old with two children already, right? So the game of football is all he knew. And for him to go to the University of Miami, a private school, away from, where he was around before, to get the call, get the information to where he wasn't possibly able to play football ever again, had to sit out a whole year and kind of, not do what he loves and kind of stick to, schoolwork, and for him to not only do what he was supposed to do, but over exceed expectations. And now to see, the end result, not only did he get cleared, but this man is one of the best players on the team right now. 5 practices in, you cannot tell me Avonte Williams is not already a difference maker for this football team. And those are the same expectations that we kind of feel for guys like Leonard Taylor and James Williams. And when you look at this roster and the type of scheme we're going to start to run, the opportunity's there. Now they just got to go out and get it.
Exactly. Now let me turn this before we go into the scrimmage piece of this. I want to ask you something I think is very important. I don't think a lot of people look at this. I'm always a guy talking about the stable, right? Making sure we have enough people in the stable.
Mm-hmm.
We look at yesteryears, the 01, 02 teams with the McGahee, the young Frank Gore, the Tyrone. We were just so loaded.
Yep.
Do you think right now that we are overinsured at the striker and safety position?
Yes, I think we have plenty of guys in the safety and striker position. And I think right now this is going to benefit us because the one spot I was the most questionable at, going into spring is that second linebacker position, right? And I think with the type of formations we're going to be bringing out, the type of teams we're going to be facing that are going to be very spread heavy, we're going to have to utilize at times that our second linebacker may possibly have to be another corner, another striker, another safety. The fact that we have the fact that we're able to, have a Bubba Bolden and a Gervin Hall out there and be able to have in our back pocket a Keontre Smith paired with a Gilbert Frierson, or a Gilbert Frierson paired with a Avonte Williams, add in a Chase Smith who's doing very exceptional, and then
that's my man.
Hey, man, Chase, I'm going to tell you right now, Chase Smith is one of those freshmen right now that are standing out like very, very well. Him, we'll get into this, but him, Deshaun Troutman, there's a lot of guys. But yeah, man,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I truly do think safety and striker position, that's going to be very important, especially for that second linebacker, because there's going to be times where, I really hope Avery Huff kind of keeps progressing where he's at, because I've heard other linebackers aren't really progressing as quickly as we thought. And me personally, I think the linebacker position is one position in particular that we may need to go in the portal for anyways. So if we don't get that second dominant guy to go with a Corey Flagg, I would love to see a Keontre Smith, at that second linebacker at times.
So basically turn it into a dime defense.
Yep.
In essence. Okay. Because, everybody get caught. Oh, we run a 4-3. We should be a 4-2-5. Guys, it's still 11 guys. We can get caught up in the nuances. The striker is nothing but the old school nickel back. Yep. A lot of teams now have created their own name for it. A lot of strikers probably – it used to be based on the school, right? So, some people would call it, I don't know, let's just say – I don't know. I think when Bama had, when they called him the star, but that was something Nick Saban brought because that was his own. But people used to always make it relate to whatever school they were at, right? So I think when Nick first started that, he used to call him the Sparty because he was at Michigan State. So that was the Sparty position. And then, that kind of stuff. But anyhow, I just want to go through that. So I'm asking this. Knowing what you have at safety, and you still got a guy that's not on campus yet, what do you do with him? And the safety position is not a position that you necessarily rotate.
For sure. I think James Williams, going into this wants to be a safety, right? I think he's kind of putting that on his shoulders that he wants to be a safety here. So I think you give him the opportunity, the first couple games or first couple practices to kind of fill his way in and let him get the feel for how many, reps he's possibly taking at the safety position. And then maybe, maybe someone like T-Rob who already has developed clear guys that have gone into the NFL that has played multiple positions. Someone like Keon O'Neal, for a good example, who has played safety and is now moving to linebacker, someone who could play multiple positions. I think you let James Williams kind of see, hey, maybe I'm only getting 12 reps at practice at safety right now, where if I potentially, show interest at the striker position, I could get an extra 8 to 10 more reps. So maybe I should, kind of see what's going on there.
But but the reason I brought that up was because that's why I brought this up earlier. Striker and safety are loaded. So now, who do you take out from the striker position? If you take him down to the striker position, now who do you take out? Do you take out a Chase Smith? Do you take out Keontre Smith?
I was just going to say those were actually the two names I would put at weak side linebacker. Those are the two names that I could see potentially having the range and the size, the athleticism. You give me Avery Huff in running situations and give me Keontre Smith or Chase Smith in passing situations as that second linebacker, along with your two strikers and your still two safeties and two corners. That whole backfield is paired up, man. You got too much speed, too much athletes. I like it.
I love it. But how about this? So what's the Amari Carter deal then? Is he going down? Is he going to stay back there? Is he going to get outplayed? I mean, these are all just hypotheticals.
Yeah, I think you just let Amari be Amari right now. I think the number one thing is we need to continuously see him make hits without targeting. And I think what you saw in the spring practice on Mark Pope, I don't think that was targeting. It was just a nice big hit. I don't think he led with that.
Targeting? Somebody said it was targeting?
No, I think people on social media thought it was targeting at first because they knew it was Amari Carter. But T-Rob, I mean, that could be something that T-Rob has maybe experienced at other schools where it's a very easy fix that he has already done in the past with certain players, to where it's that one little tweak, right? It's similar to, someone having a golf swing or a baseball stance. You drop that elbow just, a little bit more degrees and you get that motion down pat, it changes everything. And maybe that's something that T-Rob was able to see in Amari Carter, and that changes the dynamic of everything.
Yeah, I just think it's because there's so much space out there and you're closing in so fast. You've been doing something so long. And I hate the targeting calls for bang, bang plays, right? Now, when guys are going up and so forth, I understand the game wants to be safer, but I've never seen anybody call offensive targeting when the running back lowers his head to go through the goal line. You know what I mean? So, but
here's the other good thing, Coach Hayes. Orange and Greenblood brought it up, right? This is like, we're talking about problems right now, right? These are kind of problems, but they're good problems. When is the last time we have been able to talk about, do we really want to have a 5-star at the position he wants, or maybe we can move him somewhere else? Like, we talk about this striker position in particular, right? And safety as well. Don't you remember a few years ago when we had the Jaquan Johnsons, the Sheldrick Redwines, and the Romello Finleys at these positions? And as soon as one of them got injured or was out for 1 week, we saw the difference immediately. That is something now with quality depth and multiple guys that can play multiple positions is going to benefit us. Same thing in the wide receiver room. Same thing on the offensive line. We have multiple guys that you can plug and play at multiple positions, and that's always a good thing to have.
That's a great thing to have, and that's back to what I was always saying about the stable. We got it. We got to get them in. We got to get them in. And as bad as COVID, I say this all the time, as bad as COVID was for a lot of people, it helped the University of Miami keeping guys home. We lost a couple out of here, but for the most part, and it gave us another year. Just think about if these players didn't get that extra year, how many guys would we have lost? Because we only lost the two ends, right?
Yeah, 2 ends and Brevin Jordan. We literally lost the only players that we could honestly say should have gone, and that has never happened at Miami.
Right, and then so let me ask you this: without COVID, and everybody could have gone. Who all would have not had the opportunity to come back besides my man Zach McLeod?
So you got obviously Zach McLeod. You got De'Aaron King, Bubba Bolden, Cam Harris. Let's see, Navon Donaldson, Jared Williams. Man, I think that's John Ford is another one. Linebacker position, I don't think you have anybody at the linebacker position. Cornerbacks, everybody's back at corners. Yeah, Bubba Bolden at safety.
And that's what I'm saying. These are significant players. Think about these.
Yeah.
Because the depth, we lost the depth. Now you'd have a lot of first-time guys out there rolling around.
Yeah.
You know, and we would the revolving door starts right back over. Now it's slowed down just a little bit for us to catch up. And that's the great part about it.
And even though, I mean, we talk about the seniors that would not have had an extra year, but then we also got to talk about the juniors that potentially would have not have came. Oh, I even forgot about our number one receiver, Mike Harley. Mike Harley would not have came back, right? He could potentially be the all-time leading wide receiver at the University of Miami when it's all said and done. How crazy is that? Leading Miami in receptions and yards total when it's all said and done. And I mean, we talk about him, but the juniors like Nesta Silvera, you know what? I mean, if Bubba Bolden leaves and all these other guys leave, who's to say that Nesta doesn't leave too? So I mean, there's a lot of guys that we ended up keeping.
Exactly. And that's funny about it. Now we talk about expectations from the fan base. As bad as we've been ripping Harley, you trying to tell me this dude can end up being a leader. So it mean he wasn't really that far off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in essence, if you really think about it, he really not that far off. You know, that's funny. That's the funny deal about it, man. I'd say these Hurricane fans, boy, expectations, boy. Y'all tough, man. Fire dude, because he's 10-2. I'm like, bro, you lost to the number one team in the nation. And yeah, we got our teeth kicked in by North Carolina. I get it. You know, and again, you can count bowl games. I get it. But I look at them now, they're not the same. They are just glorified all-star games, in my opinion.
I will say this. The only reason why I think a bowl game is very important is just because our predicament. We have only won maybe one or two bowl games in the last 15 years.
Right.
Like,
that's bad. That's bad. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying.
No, I agree though.
You know, when we try to pile on because he lost a bowl game, and yeah, we should have won that, but we weren't that good. I'm just being honest. I tell guys, we won the games we were supposed to win, and that kept us along, right? And I mean, I didn't expect us to get our face knocked completely off our head against North Carolina, but we lost the game. You know, we lost the games that, in essence, you were supposed to lose, and you won the game you were supposed to win. And let me go into this piece. Just talking about that before we get to the scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
This year we have to win games by some significant numbers, and the reason I say that is because now it gets the young guys some more opportunities, right? When you're not chasing the win because you're only up by 6 points and can't afford, or you're only up by 14 at the beginning of the third quarter, and you're scared to give up a touchdown because you know that's not really a lead in college football anymore. Because people are not running the ball. I mean, they can score on you at any time. So we have to beat the North Carolina States and not be in a shootout. We can't beat Virginia by $1. We can't go, you know what I mean? We can't, like even UAB. UAB should have been over in the first quarter. You know, but it wasn't. Louisville should have been over in the first half, but it wasn't, you know. And so these are the type of games, those are the games that we have to, where our young puppies can get.
Tyler Van Dyke should have been in at least 3 or 4 football games last year.
Easily. And we literally in a shootout with North Carolina State.
Nope.
45, 46 or something like that? Some crazy number?
Man.
So I'm just saying, like, we have to win these games. And that's what I was trying to say about Alabama. People were talking about, oh, they're losing everybody, blah, blah, blah. No, the difference is when they beating people by, they get 30 points scored on them a game. Yeah, but they whooping them by 50 in the first half, and the puppies are allowing the points, but they're getting on OJT, on the job training. Yeah. So that's where we have to get. Now, let's get to this piece. We literally at 1 hour and 3. Let's get into this piece of it. The scrimmage. Yes. Nobody was privy to any information, but I know my man right here had a drone or something flying over, and you saw everything. Wink, wink. That being said, I know you got some inside information.
So where do you want to start? Where do you want to start? You give me a position and throw it out there, and I got you.
Okay. Since it was the main concern, linebackers.
Okay, so obviously with the linebacker position, there have been a couple, you know, and kind of sidelined a couple of players out. Corey Flagg has obviously, you know, took that next step. From everything I've heard, he has cemented himself at being that, you know, number one linebacker. And like I mentioned before, I think the concern for everyone was, who are we going to be able to pair him up with, right? You got the Sam Brooks, you got the Avery Huffs, And I think it seems like Avery Huff is slowly, starting to get comfortable at that weak side linebacker position where he made a lot of good plays. Chase Smith is another young man that has made a lot of noise, a lot of opportunity. But I still do think there wasn't many guys being able to get much snaps at that linebacker position. You did see a lot of Ryan Rigoni out there as well. So again, I do think that linebacker position is one position in particular where we're not quite healthy enough right now to have as many guys as we would like to rotate in practice. You're seeing that in a couple other positions as well. But I think all in all, we have a dominant first linebacker, potential good second linebacker in Avery Huff right now. But I do think we're going to transfer portal and add another linebacker.
I got you. I meant to do this before I got into this section. I got to give my man a big shout out here. Greg, pushing the building for the $10, man. I appreciate you. Coach Hayes and Brad, the A-team of Hurricane Football Talk. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. And I'm going to give you your love, Greg, because you always in the building, my man.
I will say this too. Deshaun Troutman had one heck of practice from everything I heard. People left and right, and boy Chase Smith actually lit up Restrepo on like a screen block. Apparently Restrepo came around and tried and set a block, and your boy Chase Smith lit him up. So I heard that was one of the highlights. But the number one highlight I heard of all spring practice, that there's always those little clips that float around after spring practice, but there's one in particular where if you web, I promise you it's going to get millions of likes from everything I heard. But Xavier apparently put Cam Kitchens in a blender. And I mean, like, it was so bad to where the coaching staff, like, were on the sidelines jumping up and down like crazy. Everyone was going nuts. It was like a SportsCenter top 10 play, apparently, like, did them in. Yeah. So that was the highlight of spring practice from everything I heard was Xavier Restrepo, doing what he does best. And I mean, he was obviously the highlight of all spring practice, but that one play in particular, I've heard from numerous players, coaches, that was one where you had to see it.
Oh, I can't wait, man. I understand why they necessarily don't show, and I understand that, but now I'm a fan. I want to see. You know what I mean? Just give me a peek. But I'm gonna ask you this because you brought up Smith at the weak side linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he wasn't very heavy, about 180. That's my only concern. That I'm not saying he can't play. I just don't think he's physically prepared to be in the box like that right now. When I go back to Amari Carter, and how can you eliminate some of those targeting penalties? Eliminating the distance.
Mm-hmm.
Very rare you get targeting penalties when you're tackling within the 5-yard box. Yeah, so you don't get that running start. You don't, you're not space and time is not on your side. And plus these guys heavier because I'm looking at these other guys, looking at their weights. And of course, I know it's not always that accurate, but it's close. You're looking at Lord have mercy, I'm moving too fast.
I will say that
yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
These names you're mentioning too, like these are all great players that when you put them in the right situation, that's where they're going to blossom. And I think the key to all this is we have so many situational players where we have to make sure we put them in the right situation. That goes back to coaching, right? And that is where T-Rob and Bob Shoop is going to come in perfectly, because there are going to be moments, there are going to be games where we're going to go from 1 week having to, be very run stopping ability. And then we're going to go to another week where it's straight spread, where it's going to be airing it out every single time. And you're going to have a guy that has a bag of tricks to where he's been able to experience all these different situations on bigger platforms. And that's where Bob Shoop comes in. Manny Diaz has finally had. Yeah, you got a supervisor now.
Yeah, you got to be able to package guys for different scenarios, situations. My only concern, and I've seen this, and you got to be very organized from a coaching standpoint when you do that, right? Mm-hmm. And what it's called is personnel checking. So I mentioned this, I forgot whose show I was on, and we were talking about, you always seen people on the sideline holding up the personnel card, 21, 11. And we were talking about timeouts. if you look now, football, it used to be just the offense comes up there or whatever on the timeout. Now everybody comes up on timeout. That way it helps hide the packaging and the personnel from the offense. And then they wait till the last minute and jump out there so you can't get that done. And so that's just what I'm saying. They have to be very organized. People have to know players can't be going in the back talking, drinking water, because your number could be called at any moment. Like you got to have your head. You can't sit on the bench talking about I'm not playing, because before you know it, your number's called. I was actually like that, and I used to make my players keep their helmet on all game long, because that happened to me one time at Miami North. I will never forget this. Personnel change, because sudden change. They fumbled the ball. We going on defense. My middle linebacker, they get the ball on the 5. It's less than 30 seconds left in the game against Carroll City. My middle linebacker doesn't have his helmet on. Through the confusion of the sudden change, we fumble, right? So we basically trying to take a knee to win the game out. We fumble the ball. They get it back on inside the 5-yard line. His helmet gets kicked under the bench. He can't find his helmet. Guess who I got to put out there?
Poor little Timmy.
Poor little Timmy. And guess what they
man.
Straight up poor little Timmy.
Oh, man.
But that's because that's football. The football gods will make you pay. I used to always say that. And so they have to be, if they're going to do these type of thing with packaging, it sounds great. You better be very organized. You better use all them GAs, student assistants. They have to be on it, man, because it's like an orchestra. You got to know when to play your violin and when to play the tuba.
And,
you know what I mean?
And you know more than most of us about that, right? And these things that you're talking about, right? We have already been a year under Rhett Lashley. So these concerns that you're talking about are being relayed not only from the coaches and from the players already on the team, but they're all being relayed just to the freshmen, right? Where when you look at Alabama right now, they got a brand new staff on offense that's calling those play calls. So you're having to reestablish this tone to everybody on the football team to learn something different. And you're going to have to learn that game one against Miami. So that's one little advantage that, I mean, if there is an advantage for Miami going against Alabama, that certainly is one of them.
Yeah, definitely, man. And that's what you have to do. Take advantage. That's coaching. You know, them X and O's, that stuff sound great. There's nothing new under the sun about this game. There's only but so many gaps you can blitz in. There's so many coverages you can. I tell people, it's only 5 coverages on defense, man. That's it. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now you can mix them up and match them, but at the end of the day, it's only one football. If the quarterback looks over here and sees cover 2, I don't care if you run a cover 4 over there. He's doing cover 2 reads. If he looks over here and sees cover 4, who cares what you're doing over there? It's cover 4. Like, you know what I mean? So it looks great and exotic and all that sexiness, and there are little nuances. But at the end of the day, bro, it's one football, and it's going to go where it's going to go. So with that being said, we talked about scrimmage. We talked about linebackers. I like it. Let's go defensive line. Okay.
So with the defensive line, again, that's another position where you had a few guys out. I want to say, Chance Williams and Jafari Harvey kind of took that next step, but it seemed like the surprising person in spring game was Thomas Davis. Thomas Davis, he wasn't really the biggest guy. He's someone a lot more smaller than some of the defensive ends that Jess Simpson would like to use in his packages. But apparently that first step, again, going back to somebody like Zach McLeod, those first steps can really get you off balance. And that is someone that, uses that bend with that first step very, very nice with Thomas Davis. And he stood out tremendously. I don't know if it was against the first team offensive line or the second team offensive line. That's a different story. But the fact that we have, freshmen that have just, entered this campus and have already making differences, that's a good telling sign, right? So I think you got to be impressed with that. But I think defensive end, you're not going to see too much of pressure as far as gap contain. That's going to be more on the defensive tackles. But we'll see what happens going forward. I think defensive end and linebacker are going to be the only 2 positions, in my opinion, that we go after in the portal. So it's interesting that you brought up the defensive end and linebacker position, because those would be the 2 spots that I would still feel uncomfortable with, going after spring. But every other position, I mean, it's nothing but good news.
Yeah. And the reason I brought those up, it was all strategic, because I know everybody want to talk about the quarterback. So we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about that situation. But I love Thomas Davis' film, and I have to say this. when I say my feelings were hurt when they had him listed as a linebacker, I ain't gonna lie to you. I had to be very honest with McCain family. I had some real concerns about this coaching staff when I saw that, because I can only go off what was listed. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying to myself, right, we're bringing a guy that I did his film, I watched his film, and not one clip do I see him at linebacker. We talking about he's a linebacker because, and now in my mind I'm thinking, because of his size, is that why we say, we're gonna convert him? Well, this Power 5 program, if we don't feel like he could play linebacker, let's go get a guy that plays linebacker. Let's not we're not at FIU, and not to down them, but we don't have to be in that situation. This is a Power 5 program.
We learned with Patrick Joyner, right? Patrick Joyner was the same situation.
Yeah. So let's stop trying to convert guys and let's get what they do well. Because think about it, these guys been 4 years in high school, probably played that since maybe they were middle school age, because I know Florida don't have necessarily middle school ball. And then you're going to bring them to a Power 5 program and give them a whole new thing, and they haven't even mastered that yet. So that was my whole spiel. All right, let me go to this piece, because everybody's talking about hard. We don't even have to talk about running backs. I think we know who those guys are. Let's talk about the receivers right quick.
Yes.
In Manny Diaz's press conference, he talked a little bit about things, but he didn't mention Pope.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me about Pope.
I mean, Mark Pope is he's getting some reps. It's just not as many reps as he would like to get. And I think that's something that some Cane fans would like to hear, right? And I think it's going back to the accountability and the competition. And when you look at the wide receiver room, that is probably the most competition on this football team right now. And you have too many guys, specifically in Mark Pope's position, that will be playing the same spot as Mark Pope in this offense, that, they're tired of waiting, right? You got guys like Xavier Restrepo, right? You got the Keyshawn Smiths. You got Mike Harley that could potentially slide in that spot as well. And that's the dangerous part with some of these guys on our team. You have multiple guys, again, that could play that slot, that could play that outside. Someone like Charleston Rambo, you can move all throughout the football field. If you're 3 to 4 guys on the football team are potentially Keyshawn Smith, Xavier Restrepo, Mike Harley, and Charleston Rambo, you have 3 out of 4 guys that could play any spot on the field, right? And then you match him. You put an Xavier Restrepo on the inside on one side, and you pair him with a Will Mallory on the inside on the other, with your 2 big, fast wide receivers on the outside. You got size, you got speed, you got a personable target for the quarterback. And that's the key for Xavier Restrepo right now, is he is making himself open for no matter who the quarterback is. He is one of those guys that literally find the openings, the weak spot in the defense every single time, and he makes himself available for the quarterback every time. He is super smart when it comes to football IQ. And from everything I heard, man, he's a workaholic. He's one of those guys where if someone tells him to run a route and he does one thing wrong, he's going to run it 10 more times perfect before someone else is allowed to go. And that just, that's accountability, man. And that's something that we've been wanting, specifically in that wide receiver room, ever since that whole, press conference came out about not being on the jug machines, and we saw the accountability pick up with Mike Harley. Well, now we're starting to see it pick up with, 3 to 4 other guys. And I think Mike Harley is trying to keep some other guys in that wide receiver room accountable, from what I heard as well. So they're making sure that everybody's on the same page. And if not, you're going to get lost.
Love it, man. Real quick before I add to my last piece and we can get it out. Big shout out to Guzman Crease. It was good, Brad and Coach. Hope y'all enjoying y'all night. Big shout out to him. I don't know if you want to put it out there, but I saw it in the comment section. Just had a new baby. So congratulations to you, Guzman, man. Yes, congratulations on that, man. You're daddy now. I don't know if it's your first or your second or whatever, but congratulations to you and your lady, man. And that's awesome, man. But so let me get into this piece. Real quick, Brother Jay Blaze said, y'all move fast in this thing. I can't even hit it. Brother Jay Blaze said, hit that like button. Hit it up. We got 169 in the chat. 166. 3 people done left me, man. That's bad. Let's get into this thing, man. What everybody wants to hear.
Uh-huh.
El Jefe, man. The boss. El Capitón, man. The quarterback.
Quarterback. Yes.
That's the boss. He's the boss. He's the one in charge, right? A Lamborghini is not a Lamborghini without the engine. It's just a hunk of metal. So with that being said, I need your breakdown of these guys. Talk to me.
Listen, man, it's all about choices, and it seems like we are finally able to have choices in the quarterback room. Something where we have, unfortunately, in the past years, we haven't had choices. We have had to get stuck with that person, right? That's what it's felt like, and there was no backup plan. Where now we got a plan A, we got a plan B, we got a plan C. And you even got a nice plan D who potentially is an amazing scout quarterback in Peyton Machado, because from everything I heard, he has the athleticism to keep up with someone like De'Aaron King as far as, being that scout guy, to where when we do play, mobile quarterbacks, Peyton Machado is going to be that guy to lead in practice on that opposite side of the defense. Now, when you go to the two guys, obviously Tyler Van Dyke and Jake Garcia. Tyler Van Dyke has obviously been the name to look out for all throughout spring, just because he's been there for a year. He's taking those quarterback 1 reps, and obviously Jake Garcia was lingering a leg injury, right? Well, Tyler Van Dyke has obviously been progressing all throughout spring. He's going above and beyond on and off the field. A lot of teammates are seeing what he's done. Well, I think Jake Garcia has been seeing it too, and he's kind of, been slowly, gaining this feeling inside his heart, inside his head, where it's like, nah, man, everywhere I've gone in life, I've been the number 1 guy. I know myself to be the best. I know myself to where I want to put the backpack on. I want to carry this football team. And what you see out of Jake Garcia is a gamer, someone who literally can go throughout practice, and only get his, 6 to 8 reps, 8 to 10 reps because of a nagging injury. But as soon as the game hits and the lights are on him, he has a switch, man. And everybody that's ever played with him, anybody that's ever coached him, anybody that's ever watched him, Jake Garcia, when it's time to go, there's not a quarterback on the roster that you want over him. And I think what a lot of the coaching staff and a lot of the players saw in that spring game was that this dude is nothing to play with. What he did in practice and what he's doing in this potential spring game is something that I want on my football team, and I want leading the charge. And I think what you're starting to see is, I think the training wheels are coming off real quick. And I think people are starting to realize that 13 ain't just Dan Marino anymore in the city of Miami.
I hear you, boy. Hey, you put a lot on it. I'm going to ask you this, because I know you got to run. Let me ask you this piece now. Because, the whole transfer portal is not a new thing, but the way it's being used is relatively new. And based on what you're saying and what I'm hearing, De'Aaron King comes back. We don't know about April. People had their speculations. I mean, not April, but the Alabama game or so forth.
Yep, August.
But let's just say it's his team coming out this year. Cool. Comes next year, though.
Does somebody transfer?
Hey, dun, 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 dun. If you're telling me Jake is the guy, right?
Yep.
And we already know quarterbacks only need 1 year. Nobody ever heard of Dwayne Haskins until that year. Nobody ever heard a lot of these guys until that 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, does TVD take his talents elsewhere? If that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then second, I'm going to tie this back into why we were on the show tonight with Jacuri.
I was just about to bring him up.
Yeah, so I'm gonna tie it back. So some people, y'all not talking about Jacuri. We did it at the beginning. It's over.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna tie him back in, and I'm gonna let you guys. I'll let you get out of here. So now, Jake Garcia is the man. This year.
Yep.
Not this year, but I'm saying he's there. Burn. The following year, he takes to him.
Yep.
What happens? Dun dun dun.
So, I mean, first of all, this is good conversations to have right now. We got 2 good quarterbacks that can do 2 different things. Now, when you look at Tyler Van Dyke, right, some of the strengths of Tyler Van Dyke was his physicality, his frame, his arm. And now people are getting surprised by his athleticism because they weren't sure how quick or how fast he was mobility, right? Mm-hmm. His only problem coming into the University of Miami was decision-making and the competition he played with. Now, the key traits I just mentioned for Tyler Van Dyke are the exact same for who? Jacuri Brown, right? Got the size, got the arm, has the athleticism, way more mobile, right? So if you lose someone like Tyler Van Dyke, you already have someone groomed that you will be grooming in Jacuri Brown, who already fits the same exact quarterback that Tyler Van Dyke is, but with a higher upside. You lose someone like Jake Garcia, you now have two of the same type of quarterbacks that potentially are battling with each other, to where now you're not able to see the pros and the cons to either one going into practice of what potentially is better for your offense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I just wanted to put it out there because guys are flocking. Because imagine if N'Kosi Perry stayed, then what?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, you're right. I think the biggest move of this, the biggest move of this offseason was Kosi announcing before all this happened that he was leaving, because like you mentioned, this could have been an easy opportunity for Kosi to be like, you know what? Maybe King ain't going to be ready. I'm going to take it on my shoulders, be the number one guy all throughout spring and summer, and potentially get that starting spot against Alabama. What does that happen to this whole Jake Garcia vibe that's happening right now? Non-existent. This Tyler Van Dyke, potentially being the next honcho, the next captain. That wouldn't have not happened because Kosi would have been taking all the snaps. So it's good opportunities, man. We're finally, the quarterback position is one position in particular that has been hurting Miami for more than years, but decades, man. True. We need a guy that can put the backpack on and be a quality leader. One of the hardest things for this program has been not being able to find a leader. Our biggest leaders have been transfers. That is not.
When do you say that? Not to go over there. If you think about the Miami Hurricanes, the people we call our stars didn't come here. The Phillips, all these cats came from other places.
Or not from here, right? Even if they were recruited and signed with Miami and shut down. DJ Dallas from Brunswick, Georgia.
Yeah.
Brunswick, Georgia is a diehard Cane. You can't find me more people that will throw that U helmet on and live and die on that green tree like DJ Dallas. And he's not even from here.
Right. That's crazy. Well, let me say this before I let you go. We're right at 127. So I got about 3 minutes. I think I'm going to try and squeeze out of Brad because I know he has to run. So here's the deal. I'm going to ask you a question that plagues all coaches. I don't care whoever you pick. Who do you think would be the starter besides King? Who do you think would be the starter? Or just your opinion. Whoever you want. Who do you think?
I think so. Is it just long term or just first game?
Yeah, first game.
First game, I think you go Jake Garcia because you need a gamer. You need someone that could change the dynamic of the game by himself.
Jake Garcia, right? Cool. Yep. Is King better than Jake Garcia?
Right now, yes.
Okay.
Overall, I think in a year, no. I think Jake Garcia has a lot more. And you got to think, man. I love De'Aaron King, but as crazy as this is, he actually has the worst arm out of the three quarterbacks. When you look,
I wouldn't doubt that. Yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, if you look at the type of offense, I mean, we didn't run anything different from what De'Aaron King was in. And then when he got injured and Kosi came in, not only was our deep ball working because of the play of Kosi, right? But then it established and made those running holes a lot bigger because now you were able to execute on those down the field throws that unfortunately De'Aaron King wasn't doing consistently all throughout the year. And you also got to remember that RPO that we are relying on heavily is specifically on the run. De'Aaron King, it took him about 4 to 5 weeks to get used to that. That's something that Kosi doesn't in the back of his head. That's something that Jacuri Brown does something in the back of his head. That's stuff that Tyler Van Dyke isn't used to.
Well, hey, the chat loving you right now, Brad. You killing, you talking that talk. As they say in URL, spit your, that's what I'm talking about. But listen, what I'm saying is you're 100% right. But now I'm going to bring up my point. I think I should have been a lawyer in my second life. I'm going to be a lawyer. I think I just set you up. You ready? Jay Garcia beats Alabama. Does King start week 2?
Whoo. No.
I'm the man, man.
No.
Put it in the chat section right now. Yes, they can bring him in second week. Jake Garcia gets the W, or no, King sits out because Jake Garcia is hot until he fizzles out or he doesn't.
Listen,
put it in the chat right now.
You do that. You do that. You're back. You're in Alabama. You're in Alabama mode. You got a true freshman that comes in and actually can take over. That's something that only happens to the elite programs in college football. And usually when that happens, you go on to the championship. So yeah, any quarterback that beats Alabama, you keep him and you keep him in play. Simple.
I love it. Everybody's saying no. Jake Garcia takeover. And here's my last thing for you, Brad. I said something. I talked to Kane up from Miami Flow about this. I'm really now put this out here publicly. Here's what I want to do for the Alabama game. And I don't know if you're going up there. I may get a chance to get up there. I don't know.
I'm gonna be there.
I'm gonna be there too, so we all can meet somewhere. And I got to rough up my man Ricky from he's from Tide Talk Sports. I got to bust him up, man. He's so Alabama. He even got crimson hair, bro. So anyway, listen. This is what I want to do, and I haven't worked out the logistics. Maybe we all can meet out. I want to do what they call the YouTube takeover. The YouTube takeover. I want as many Kane YouTubers. We're going to get up and just daisy chain this damn thing. For example, say Paul Scoop on the U. He's on for an hour. Everybody's on his show, right? Let's just say 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You go on the Kane's Insight. And all them same people go to that show. Then at 10 o'clock, we go on to a Wholesome One show. Everybody's on the 11 o'clock. We go on to the next person's show. 12 o'clock, everybody gets onto that person's channel. 1 o'clock, we get on the next person's channel. 2 o'clock, and whoever's channel we on, this is up to them. What they talk about with it, they can maybe we can pick it by position. You guys come and just talk about the receiver, what we expect. We can talk about that for an hour easy. And then D-line for me or whatever. And then Wholesome talk about linebackers. Or whoever wants to be a Miami Flow gets on and he wants to talk about this and so forth and so on. I want to do that. I want to be a YouTube takeover. We break the internet, dog. What do you think?
I'm about it as long as there's alcohol involved.
Oh, yeah. So, and that'd be great if for the people that are up there, we can meet on, just use the same computer and just log into whatever you stream on and just go bananas. But then for the people who don't make it, they get on there. We just log on and be on the same camera acting a straight donkey.
I'm about it, man. I'm all for it. I'm gonna be there at least for 2 or 3 days. So I'm down. We'll have to meet up and get some drinks. This the longest 3 minutes.
And I'm done. I'm right at 1:30. I'm done. Brad, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you for everything, for coming on here, man. And for all my Kane family out there, love you guys. Check out the WREs. I'm out of here, Brad. If there's anything, I don't have to give you plugs. Everybody knows you.
Yes, sir, man. Nah, I'm not even gonna plug in, man. Y'all just keep doing your thing. Follow Coach Hayes. Hit the like, subscribe button. He's one of the best in the biz, man. Coach Hayes, you keep doing your thing. We'll talk soon, brother.
I appreciate it, man. I'm out of here. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Longest 3 minutes ever. Peace.
Yes, sir.
Kane gang, 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 Kane gang. You see him in orange and green? That's Kane gang. You ready for Storm 18? That's Kane gang. Kane gang, 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 Kane gang. You see him in orange and green? That's Kane gang. That's Kane gang. You ready for Storm 18? That's Kane gang. That's Kane gang. Rep since a juvenile, I be where they throwing up using crowds. You know how that school get down, not taking no L's, we ain't losing now. Don't get it confused right now, I represent making these music sounds. They play me when they study in their dorm room, request me an Uber now. I be screaming Kane gang, across the world they be screaming out the same thing. We first to arrive and last to leave, we filling the sense of capacity. You know I won't change while you asking me, be throwing this youth to the casket deep. Be all on the field like Sebastian B. Rockin' Kane's well, I'm a fashion freak. Look, I be staying live on pipe down. Ass down life, it's a lifestyle. Ain't like the other schools, don't confuse us. We the only ones that really throw the U up. But Kane's fam turned up where you find me. Hit hard like I seen it go to Shanti. Try to reach a man D, they remind me that them Kane's right back in they prime. Screaming out, Kane gang, Kane gang, Kane gang,
Gang gang, gang gang, gang gang, gang gang. You see him in orange and green? That's gang gang. You ready for Storm 18? That's gang gang. Gang gang, 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 gang gang. You see him in orange and green? That's gang gang. That's gang gang. You ready for Storm 18? That's gang gang. That's gang gang. That's gang gang.
So low, so low, so low, deep. So low, so low, so low, deep.
CWA. Gang gang.